Today in the morning I'm awake with big headache, high blood pressure, and with the stomach problems. But you know why? Because I realized yesterday that in this weekend is last weekend when we have Christmas decoration. And we will be again in the Egypt. And what we have in the Egypt? Sahara, desert. Now we have beautiful green, beautiful decorations, and them we will have only as in the Texas, cactuses. But outside, not in the church. A week ago, we have celebrated Epiphany. And by the feast of the Epiphany, we know that Jesus, a person of the Jesus, was inside of the divine plans, inside of the divine strategy, but also by the feast of the Epiphany, we heard about three Magi's. These three Magi's just were our representatives. They came to the Jesus and there accept him, not only as the small baby, not only as the king. They see in the small baby the God, our Savior. And these three Magi's, they are example for us who is Jesus for us. Today, first Sunday of the ordinary time. And first Sunday of the ordinary time is Sunday of the baptism. Baptism of the Jesus, but also reminding us our baptism. Sometimes people asking me, Father, why we doing baptism in the church, not in the river? Interesting how people in Alaska in the winter will baptize people in the river. Why we baptizing children, not adults, of was baptized Jesus? Why we using water, but not using milk or Coca-Cola? Therefore we will speak a little bit today about sacrament of the baptism. For better understand actions, what we doing during this baptism. And first, we hear today that Jesus came to the John. And also, we come into the church, we bring in the baby or other adult people to the church, to the minister, as to was with the John the Baptist. John was as the minister for the Jesus. But Jesus received baptism in our name. Forgive us example. How is necessary fulfill the will of God. I think so that we remember today's conversation from the gospel that John talking, I need baptism from you. And you coming to me? And Jesus said to him, quiet. You and me, we have to fulfill the will of God. This is our mission. Therefore, Jesus doesn't need baptism. But Jesus was baptized for fulfill the will of God. Again, divine strategy. In this manner was founded sacrament of the baptism. And where came to the Jesus? Not only to whom, but where? to the Jordan River. And what means river? Water. And so, not true for the baptism in the river, but just true for the water from this river. Because it's impossible today in Alaska baptize, not important, men of the 50 years or baby of 5 months in this weather. But just true for the water. Water as the symbol and water as the reality. And we use in water because our life is impossible without water. We can have bread, we can have even Coca-Cola, we can have whiskey, beer, we can have excellent sausage, hamburger, steak, 1 week, 2 weeks, and then we will ask, where is water? We need water. Just water. And water as life. Life for the man and life for the nature. And just in this symbol of the water, Jesus showing us divine life. Divine life. And not true during baptism for the containers of the water, gallons of the water. Enough drops of the water. But again, water, not Coca-Cola. Not true for the liquid, but true for some reality. Water. And again, other question. Some people talking that Jesus was baptized as the adult man. About 3 years. And again, it's necessary exactly reading letters or reading the New Testament, not only letters of St. Paul, and understand what means baptism. That baptism is sacrament. And what means sacrament? What means sacrament? And we will have answer that sacrament is grace of God. Grace of God. And St. Paul in his letter to the Ephesians, in chapter 2, he teaches us that we are saved by the grace of God. By the grace of God. And just sacrament is grace of God. Not something magic. Water, priest, deacon, pastor, others. Not true for something magic. True for the grace of God. And we are saved by the grace of God and by the grace of the sacrament of the baptism. And just by this grace, reminding us today Jesus. And why children we baptize in? Why children, not adult? Again, it's necessary understand what said Jesus. I am not came abolish the law, but fulfill. And also tradition of the chosen people, tradition of the Old Testament, and fulfillment of this Old Testament by the New Testament. And we know, even by the example of the Jesus, that when was born the baby, in special manner boy, what they did with this boy? In 8 days was circumcision. Presentation in the temple, and in 8 days, no 8 years, no 18, not 28, not 38 years, but in 8 days, baby small, 1 week, just received circumcision and received name. This was for the boys. But even from the liturgy of the church, we have feast of the presentation of the Virgin Mary. If some family had strong faith, good family, Jewish family, if they had daughter, in 8 days, they went also to the temple, to the synagogue, with the daughter. For the presentation, not for the circumcision. What circumcised in the girl? But for the presentation. And again, in 8 days, even this girl received name. Therefore, as the continuation of the Old Testament in the New Testament, as the fulfillment, we baptizing also children. Our problem is that we're not doing this in 8 days. We're doing 1 month after the birth, 2 months after the birth, 5 years after the birth. But again, we have to remember what means sacrament. Not true for the days, but again, sacrament of the baptism is grace, and not depend of the days, not depend of the years. Is grace. But also we have to understand other Jewish tradition as circumcision. By this sign was identification with the nation. Circumcised means Jewish. As the sign, who am I? And sacrament of the baptism. By the sacrament of the baptism, I am the son or daughter of God. Identification with the grace, not with the nation, but identification with the God. Again, grace of God. And the message for us that in the sacrament of the baptism, we don't need lake, sea, river, but we need water. And what means this water? That means life. And what means sacrament of the baptism? Not only rites, but that this is grace of God. Grace, something free from God. But just may by the sacrament we belong to the children of God, to the divine family, not to the nation, but just by the baptism we belong to the divine family, to the church. It's impossible to belong to the church and not be baptized. Therefore, sacrament of the baptism is as the doors for us for belong to the church. And by the church, belong to the Jesus.